and welcome to today's session of the course Let's Excel Together. I am really, really proud of you of keeping your grit together, keeping your wit together to stay in the course on this long. And today we'll be looking at visualizations or visuals. Um, Essentially, how to communicate or present data that you have stored, organized, and from our previous session, analyzed even. Okay, now you would recognize these um, entries from this point. It's from the pivot table which we covered in our previous module. I would encourage you to go over that, to get yourself abreast with how I came up to this. So what I did was I just simply uh, reformatted it, away from being a pivot table, but I got these entries from the pivot table. So here I can see that I have entries to show items, that were sold, the unit sales based on items, right? I have unit sales based on the reps, unit sales based on the region. Okay. However, even with this, sometimes you need to consider the audience of your reports or your file, and it may be better for this table to have, excuse me, a visual to help explain it better, all right, to help explain it better and still provide the table, as perhaps an appendix, or you could still provide it as the main content for them to see details of your submission or your position. Okay, so I'll start with this here. Now, visuals, basically I wrote something down. I said using images, diagrams, and other creative means to communicate a message. I call that a bit of the internet. Okay, so now, luckily for us, the Excel application by default has some images, some diagrams, and you can use pictures, anything you think can help you express yourself better. You can put that into your work. Now we have charts in Excel, and that's on that in set tab. Previously we looked at table, we looked at pivot table. We have illustrations for shapes. You may not see illustrations on your machine, you just see shapes. That's fine. For mine, I have shapes, illustrations. So I have shapes, pictures, icons. For you, it may just be all spelled out. That's still fine as well. So now you have the chat area. So best practice is select the data sets, right? Include the headers, right? And then come to the charts that you want. They are listed here, or you could just simply start by saying recommended charts. The Excel application, based on what you selected, attempts to recommend a chart type for you. Okay, select the data in your worksheet like this. You get the customized set of charts that we think will best fit your data. Okay, so I just click on that and I see different types of charts, as well as their names. There's a cluster, the column chart, you can call that. There's this chart like map. Now, this is because we have regions selected. Okay, we have a pie chart, we have a clustered or bar chart. Next to that is a funnel chart. Now, for you can see that design is a subjective thing, just as I decided to put on a hat today because I want to talk about just visuals, to probably look a bit different, which is part of what you want, to communicate clearly. I hope this doesn't send the wrong message, because that's something you have to be concerned with in design. In as much as it's a subjective process, you want to express your creativity, you should also try to take time to understand your audience so they don't get lost, with what you have come up with. Okay. Now I'm going to select the pie chart. There are some conventions with chart types. Now, the pie chart, one of the conventions I'll give to you, pie chart, is if, excuse me, the data set does not have more than four records initially here, right? Does not have more than four records. I don't, excluding the header, okay? Excluding the header, does not have more than four records. The pie chart is a good chart to deploy, okay? So I wouldn't recommend you using a pie chart if you have more than four records, four rows, excluding the header. I wouldn't. Okay. Now this is default pie chart, and then we have different styles. Right. See, we have two more tabs: chart design, format tab. Just as we saw in pivot table, and now we can select, based on the styles, a style that will feel that you think is the best fit for your design. Now, there are different types of pie charts. Now, this is because we had just selected that pie chart that was recommended. If I go into chart type, okay, and now it's on pie, I can see different pie charts, okay, different pie charts. I I personally prefer to go for this, or the donut chart. Okay, so I'm just going to select the donut chart here, and now I can see different styles, for the donut chart, that we can select from. Okay, I'm just going to stick with this so we can move into the next bit now. Now, these items here, add chat elements, is same, with this here. This is what this button does here. I sometimes prefer to use this button. If you prefer to use this, that's fine. Now, this, your chat styles, you can see chat styles, this is what you have here. Okay. Now, here, it's a funnel, helps you to filter elements in the chart that you want to be included in the chart, or you want to take out some elements out of your chart. You can do that. As you play around with it, you get to also understand it a bit better. Now there are some other things you could also do. Now we're seeing pie chart, and we have these areas here, with these colors. This is the legend. Legend, that's the title. It's representing this color. So here we're seeing orange, we have this gray color, we have this blue color, which is automatically assigned. You can customize your color, you can change the colors if you so wish. All right, all you need to do is click on that piece. Okay, ensure that you select the right piece here, and if you right click on it, you can see the option to say, excuse me, format data points. Here I already have fill, so I can even change the fill, if I want to. And I just selected black to just have, like what it would look like if I was to change that. So you see part of what I meant saying, like the subjective process. Perhaps you have better judgment of color balancing. Okay, you select the colors that you feel will be a best fit, for your audience and for what you're trying to portray. Okay, I'm just going to leave it at that simple bit. You can also add something I like to add, sometimes if I'm dealing with pie charts, is labels. Yes, everyone can see based on the proportion that the blue area seems to be the largest of the pie, which represents the central region, and correctly so, with 1000 plus units sold. Next to the east, and then the west grayed out. Okay, now I still like to just have data labels. Now remember what we said, earlier in the course. Whenever you see an arrow, it means there are more options, and you can click on that. Now, if I click on data labels, because I have just one item selected, it showed only for one. So now data labels, I can see the values, right? The values, the values are displayed, in those areas. Now, if I click on that option, I can see more options here. Now I have this um section of the screen popped out for me. I just don't want the values. Okay. I just don't want the value, since I may want to also share the table. I want the percentage, and that's one of the things I really like about the pie chart. It helps you to just perform that percentage. So now I can see the percentage of this. And now let me just share with you some this all these icons mean here. Here, it's label options. But this first one, fill and line, all right? So to fill something up, like we learned in our earlier sessions in formatting, okay, to put like coloration or a background color. So here by default it has no fill. Perhaps we want to add a fill, say solid fill, and then it gives the default blue color, but I just want it to have a white color. I can also use the keyboard shortcut to make the text bold, all right? And I also have borders. I don't want the border. If I wanted the border, I could easily select a border line here, okay? But I don't want the border, and I'm just going to keep it that way. Okay, you can also click and drag, right? The position if you're not comfortable with where position of your labels are. Now, next thing, for the purpose of this visual, I want to properly format the label, all right, which is the chat title rather. So I want to say regional sales. Okay, we're looking at regional sales. I think that would be a good title, and this is something to always think about. While you're preparing your reports, your naming conventions. Okay, your naming conventions. Now I'm going to just squeeze this up a bit. Going to just squeeze this up the bit so everything is still visible yet. For these regional sales, I want to have it more visible, and I'm just going to keep it here. Okay. Now the next two data sets, we have this based on the reps. Okay. And now I'm going to go to my insert tab, recommended charts. Let's see what they have recommended for us. We have cluster calling recommended. We have this bar charts here recommended. We also have the pie charts and another types of chart. Given the nature of this data set, I would go for, excuse me, I would go for a clustered column chart, a column chart, or a bar chart, right? Because I have another one. I'm just going to stick with the column chart of which is this. Now, if I were to still say change chart type, to see more dimensions to it, I can see that I also have a column chart where I can have distinct colors, for the bars, the column bars. You have different stacked columns. You have, you know, these things to just play around with. You have 3D pieces, to also play around with. One of the things I would have advise you is, as much as possible, try to stay on a 2D type chart. Okay. um because you're preparing formal documents. If your audience, if your audience would be like a young group, okay, perhaps you can go with 3D. But for most formal presentations, I would recommend a 2D chart. If you want to add coloring to it, that's fine. You could have that to your design. I'm just going to keep it simple, at this point here. Let's drag this over here so our pie chart is still visible. Okay, I'm just going to zoom in a bit so you can have a better feel. Now, we have our labels, no legend here. Now, for things other than the pie chart, like this column charts, bar charts, and several others, you would see things here such as this. Now, this represents, x and y axis. It's almost like you remembering your elementary mathematics class about graphs. I didn't like that very much, but here we are again. Now, we've already laid foundations of rows and columns. So rather than getting confused, okay, x-axis and the y-axis, they represent rows and columns in your chart. So the x-axis represents the horizontal bit of your chart, which is like horizontal axis, horizontal line, while the y-axis represents the vertical line of your chart. It's important to understand this, while because as you may want to apply different formatting um, rules or conventions to your chart, you need to be very sure of what area you're applying those formatting rules. So you can see my mouse over this area, I'm seeing horizontal in bracket category axis. That is the x-axis. And if I move over here, vertical value axis, it represents the y-axis. Other things I would like to put in here perhaps would be label, just like we did for the pie chart. Okay, but I'm not going to express it in percentage. I'm going to just leave it to be expressed in units, such as this. Perhaps you may want to still do more to it, maybe put inside and center, like this, or just leave it to be at the top. But I'm still just going to go with more options for the fill, as we've seen with the fill. And I'm going to say, I want this, rather than white, something to be a bit distinct, I'm just going to say, give it this shadow a bit. I still don't like that, I'm just going to leave it simple. I'm just going to leave it at this point here. Okay, I click out of that area and I can see it displayed like this. And here I'm going to say change the title to this unit sold based on reps. So we're going to say rep sales. Okay, of course you can have a better suggestion as to what title. Okay, this is just for the purpose of this section that we're having here. Okay, so next item, on this data set, I'm hoping you would have jumped in on this before me. Okay, I'm just selecting, see, observe how I'm carefully selecting my area, excluding this bottom row. Okay, I don't want it included. Okay, now for the next chart type, I don't want this column or the pie chart. Okay, I want a bar chart. And when I click OK, it comes out, not badly. It comes out not badly. Just going to move it over here. Going to simply just add data labels to it. And this is unit sales based on item. Okay, right? So item sales. So I'm just going to leave it at item sales, right? Item sales, and close this up here. Bring it down a bit so it doesn't really affect. So you see how I'm adjusting the corners. I select the shape, and immediately I select that property. I have um like ball points, to represent corners, edges of that shape. If I hold down on any point at any point, I can drag, either to my left or my right to increase or reduce the size based on area I've selected. If I select it from the top corner, I can adjust the full container of that property. Okay, so I'm just going to push this up a bit and I'm going to leave it here. And now we have this, excuse me, we have this, and see it's coming up a bit, to show that we have regional sales data set here. This may be one area I may just want to squeeze this up, or rather than squeeze it up so that I just want to pull it aside. you know I'm just going to play with this. I'm using my left click, okay, to ensure that my mouse has taken the correct position I want it to, and I'm not still seeing that correct shape there. So now it has, so I'm just going to move it up a bit. Okay, just moving it up a bit. Reason for that was because that 11% was really covering the bar area. Okay, it was really covering the bar area. So it's coming together, so to speak, and of course you hear people say things like dashboards, and all of that. This is the building block, for you to get your dashboard. So imagine, you easily can have this, you have what you want, what next do you want for your dashboard, is to have a row, a blank row where you just put title to say, oh, this represents sales for this company from this time to this time, and you have the titles, you put colorations here, you do more extracts, you put more charts, more items, and it just gives that pop, right? It gives that pop. And here I'm just going to quickly format these data labels, to just make them have a fill color as well, so it just pops out there. For the pie chart, something I would just like to just drop in as a bit of bonus for the pie chart is I like to use, excuse me, I like to still include the total value. All right. So yes, I'm saying 11%, 32%, 57%, but of what? Okay. Now this is just extra. You don't always have to do this. You can just insert the shape. Carefully draw your shape. Carefully draw your shape. All right. Carefully draw your shape. I'm going to set it to have no outline. And perhaps the fill color, fill the shape with what we're going to use here, let's just give it this fill color. Now, while the shape is selected, I go to the formula bar and I make reference to this value here and I hit enter. Okay, and I see that the value is automatically displayed in the cell. Did you Can you see that? And now I can apply formatting conventions to it. Now I'm just going to drag the width of the shape so it's more visible. And I'm going to come to, remember what we learned about alignment. So just align it, increase the font size to see how I can play with it. Perhaps change the font type. You remember what we talked about font type. And just all of this is to just give your what you're presenting, to just make it clearer where what someone once someone is reading or viewing the file you're sent, the person does not need to call you back. That's personally for me personally, that's how I like to prepare my files. Where once you see it, everything you need to understand about it, it's just there. Perhaps if it's so technical, you may need a little bit of technical interpretation, but it should be clear. The person should be able to see it, and just understand it. So in this case here, you're seeing the rep sales, from how stacked these columns are. You can see at the go that Thompson, has most sales and 393 units. So it's just visually appealing. A table is good, the analysis is really good, but how you convey your findings is even more important. Okay, so this is it for the visuals, and in the next module, I'm going to just give you a little bit of formatting, extra bit of formatting. Thanks for staying tuned. I'm really, really proud of you for staying this far, and you've done so well. Remember to play with this, get familiar with data sets, don't alienate yourself from it. Don't be scared. Wherever you run into issues, you can fall back, drop your questions or your observations in the comment sections. I'll be happy to get to them. Some person, might have a similar challenge and may have figured it out before I even see it. And we will all excel together. Thanks for tuning in. Bye for now. Cheers.